Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of November 1st, 2021. In accordance with LB 898, please be advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief period of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda. Under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The council shall require any member of the public desiring to address the council to identify themselves, the name of an organization or group, including an address that you may be representing by such person or group, unless the address requirement is waived to protect the security of the individual. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, organization, or group, and whether you are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. Will the clerk please call the first item of business?
Our first item of business for today's council meeting on Monday, November 1st, 2021 is our 2020 Honorable Mention Mayor's Award of Excellence recipient.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bowers, members of the council. It's nice to be here again to talk about the amazing work of our city employees. And today we are going to be presenting the Mayor's Annual Award for Excellence for the year 2020. Each January, all of the monthly winners and nominees from the previous year are considered once again for the annual award. And those nominations are reviewed by a committee made up of union representatives and one non-union representative whom I appoint. And before we present that annual award, we will celebrate the honorable mention for the annual award. And that goes to Police Sergeant Dustin Romshek, who was the monthly winner back in August of 2020. Just to remind you a little bit about him, he was nominated by the former Captain Benjamin Miller in the category of customer relations, productivity, and safety for his work as a criminal investigator in 2019 and 2020 on cases involving children who were missing or who were not under the care of a parent or a guardian. In late 2019, the City of Lincoln and the Lincoln Police Department identified a need for a coordinated effort to review cases involving these children, and Romshek volunteered to take the lead role in this effort. He began by reaching out to other local government agencies and nonprofit agencies who have a vested interest and focus on helping these children, and he then created and provided training to the entire police department on the best practices for helping children and their families. And he also identified risk factors that officers could become familiar with and look for when they're out on the street and spotting having a better capacity to spot a child who may be at risk for victimization. And almost immediately, they saw the results. Romshek's efforts quickly led to 6 solved cases, including 2 cases of sex trafficking. And most importantly, the children who were victims or at risk were placed in safe environments. Captain Miller praised Romshek's leadership within the Criminal Investigations Unit and the Lincoln Police Department. He wrote that Romshek goes out of his way daily to teach young police officers all aspects of criminal investigations, including the proper procedures to investigate missing persons reports. And he said that Romshek engages residents and provides them with a positive police experience. So I hope you will please join me once again in congratulating Sergeant Romshek, our 2020 Honorable Mention recipient. Police Chief Teresa Ewens is here to congratulate him, and then afterwards we'll ask him to say a few words. Oh. that is not Teresa Ewens. It is Brian Jackson.
Assistant Chief Jackson, Lincoln Police Department. Chief Ewan provided me the honor to recognize Dustin for this award. We were just up here a few months ago, recognizing him for his monthly award. Again, an indication of the type and quality of employees the city has, not just in the police department, but across all departments. We're very proud of the work he's done. Again, as I mentioned last time, Dustin's been promoted to sergeant. He continues that type of diligent work and behavior. It's demonstrated all the time. We're very proud of what he does. He has a group of contingent folks here to recognize his efforts. And while I know the annual award winner was very much deserved of his award, we believe Dustin gave him a run for his money and is an excellent example of what product the Lincoln Police Department puts out. And I think you may see him in the future bigger and better things. So congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you for the kind words, Assistant Chief Jackson. It's an honor to serve the citizens of Lincoln and the city of Lincoln in entirety. I couldn't, have done this without all the hard work by the street officers that they put in and the building rapport with the missing youth. And, a good shout out to the youth as well, too, of Lincoln, our future. And to be able to help them through these difficult times that they're going through and identify some of the issues was one of the biggest things that we wanted to do. And for them to have the courage to stand up and say something is wrong and give us the trust to help them has been tremendous. And thank you to Captain Miller for the nomination, Captain Bucher when I was back in criminal investigations for all the leadership through there. And thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sergeant Armchuk, did you want to introduce any special folks who are here to see you win this honor?
Yeah. Today with me, I have my wife, Rachel, and then my 4 youngsters that keep me busy. My oldest, Reagan, Bryson, Ashton, and then you can hear Holden. So,
Hello.
you guys say hi, wave.
We're tired from Halloween.
We want to thank your family, too, for supporting your work and service to this. Yeah, all right. It's now my honor to present the annual award for excellence to Right-of-Way Superintendent Shane Dostal from the Engineering Services Division of Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. He was the monthly winner in June of 2020, and he was nominated by Senior Engineering Technician Harry Kroos in the categories of customer relations, productivity, and safety for his work on traffic coordination during the pandemic. And in the spring of 2020, Dostal was put in charge of traffic coordination and messaging associated with the COVID-19 clinics and testing sites. And due to issues with bidding for the on-call traffic control contract, Dostal himself put out the barricades for LTU and Parks and Recreation street closures. And with many employees who were teleworking, Dostal also became the primary contact for contractors on city projects. And these activities required him to be on call at all hours, something that goes far beyond the normal job description. His exceptional commitment and dedication resulted in significant cost savings to boot. Kroos said that Dostal's positive attitude and hard work are recognized by city and non-city agencies throughout Lincoln. And for his outstanding service to our community, it is my pleasure to present him with the Mayor's Annual Award of Excellence for 2020. He will receive a $250 gift certificate, 2 days off with pay, and a plaque. And please join me in congratulating Shane. LTU Director Liz Elliott can say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. Last time we were here, I think I had just gotten a thank you from Brian Health on the great work that Shane did with the vaccination clinics and all of that. This time, I was just up with UNL at the command center over the football game, and when I asked how things were going, almost in unison, they said, Shane Dostal is amazing. And I think that truly speaks exactly what we think. He's such an asset to not only LTU, but the city as a whole. He spends so many hours, so I think the bigger thanks is probably to his wife, Shelley, that he is on call all of the time. So the next step is going to be to figure out how we can clone Shane and get him enough time so he can take those 2 days off. So thank you, Shane, for everything. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Liz. Before I get started, I just want to really quickly say I'm glad Dustin is here, because I work with a lot of these guys standing in the back, and I hope that they weren't here to take me to jail after I got done talking. So I'm glad Dustin's here. But just a few words. Just good afternoon, Council. About 4 months ago, I was standing up here in front of all of you accepting the June of 2020 Employee of the Month Award. I thought long and hard about that and told myself that was quite an accomplishment. I've been with the city for 24 years, so that puts me in a group of a large number of current and former city employees that have received these awards. So then when I got the letter stating that I was receiving the Employee of the Year award, I thought, no way could that be possible. I didn't do anything extraordinary. In my opinion, I just I did my job, because that's what I think I should have done in order to serve the citizens of Lincoln. So it's kind of mind-boggling knowing that there have been thousands of employees that have been or could have been nominated for these awards. So thank you, Mayor, for continuing this award and continuing this program. It does kind of make a person feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day when you go home. So I'd like to also say a special thank you to my coworkers within Lincoln Transportation Utilities, which there's a few here today. Without them, I would not be standing up here receiving this award. June of 2020, as we all know, was an interesting time. Lots of employees were working from home, but myself and some of my coworkers, especially Harry Crows, who nominated me for this position, or this recognition, I should say, not position, kept coming to work day in and day out also, because in the construction world that we work in, it is difficult to get your job accomplished from home. You pretty much have to be on site, monitoring, inspecting, and all that good stuff. So that being said, we found that the construction world will not stop due to a pandemic. Streets and bridges kept being built, water mains kept being repaired, and utilities kept getting installed so that this infrastructure would be available to the citizens of Lincoln. Then one day I can't remember for sure if it was May or June, a group of individuals from the health department, who I believe to this day got my name and number from some individuals that I've had the pleasure to work for at the health department, called me up and asked if I could assist them in getting groups of people from within Lincoln and the surrounding county to places in Lincoln that some of them may have never been before. So all of this so that they could be vaccinated and hopefully in the near future get back to a normal world. So with my background in traffic control and event management, I told them that my team and I would assist them with whatever they needed to make things run as smooth as possible. So my team jumped into action to do whatever they needed to do to make things run as smoothly as possible. We got message boards out, we got traffic control devices and some static signs that got made to direct people to various locations throughout the city. It was both exciting and trying going from the Pinnacle Arena Bank to Sporting Village to the Lancaster Event Center to get these vaccinations accomplished. But in the end, I think my team did a great job supplying me with the resources needed. Most individuals were able to get the vaccination to and from the vaccination clinics in a timely manner, arrive safely, and were able to return home, despite all of the construction that was occurring on City of Lincoln streets. And I keep referring to my team just because there is no way one individual like myself could have done all of this alone. I just so happened to be the orchestrator of it all. And to that, I would like to thank my director, Liz Elliott, who trusts me enough to do things like this with little or no supervision. At least I guess I hope that my superiors are trusting enough in my abilities and are not just saying, give it to Shane because no one else wants to deal with it. I would also like to thank my wife, Shelley, who is here today, and my family for all the sacrifices that they make for me to be able to do my job. When I'm working late, on the weekends, or in the middle of the night, they keep things running smoothly at home and make sure that Dad is comfortable, or at least can take a nap when he gets home. Also, although I've done my best to get to my kids' school and sporting activities, they always accepted that I would get there as soon as I could. And they also knew that wherever we may be, someone would most likely ask me about some road construction, some traffic light, pothole, or such that would start a whole nother conversation. There are also countless people within the city that I need to thank individually. So here is my big thank you to all of them, and you know who you are. I cannot begin to list the amazing people I've had the privilege to work with within the city. Please know I greatly appreciate my coworkers at LTU, as well as other departments that I've worked with, for always being willing to assist me also. It is all the little things that we do as public employees that allow the citizens of Lincoln to get to and from places safely and be able to return home to their families every night. So not to leave anyone out, I believe I need to also give credit to the 7 of you in front of me today, because you all have played a role in my recognition also. You all have allowed me to meet several extraordinary citizens of Lincoln and other extraordinary citizens from other parts of the country, as well as many talented City of Lincoln employees. And why do I say that? Well, you all approve special designated liquor licenses, which special events couldn't run without, as we all know. So I thank you all for that. And being one of the special events coordinators for the City of Lincoln, I get to work collaboratively with all those individuals, and everyone knows that with events also comes traffic. So I'd like to close today with saying a big thank you to our current mayor, as well as the previous mayors I have worked for, to my current director, Liz Elliott, and the previous directors that I've had a chance to work for, and all of my current and former bosses with the City of Lincoln. The job duties that they have tasked me with have allowed me to meet several talented individual employees of the City of Lincoln that are just as deserving of this award. The older I get, I realize that each and every individual that you get to work with, one should try and make a collaborative effort to get to know them on some level, because at the end of the day, it's the relationships that I've come to make that matters. And nothing makes me more satisfied to know that I can pick up the phone, make a phone call or a text, and know that a job will get done within the City of Lincoln better than average because of the trust a person has developed. Although my job is usually behind the scenes and may not be the most glamorous, I take pride in being part of the team of city employees from different disciplines who make sure that the driving public can travel safely inside the city to and from home every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there you have it. City of Lincoln, your City of Lincoln. It's less an institution and more a team of amazing individuals who care, who collaborate to provide services, and in normal times and extraordinary times, to protect people and save lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you both, and congratulations. We really appreciate all that you do for our city to keep our city running and safe and healthy. So thank you both, and congratulations.
Next on our agenda is a message. Due to the Veterans Day holiday, City Council will not meet on Monday, November 15th, 2021. Our items on our consent agenda are sections 1 and 2.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on any of these items on item 1 or 2?
Good afternoon, Johansi Christie, City Attorney. It is my pleasure to introduce Kathy Campbell for your consideration to serve on the Charter Revision Commission. She has served the community for a long time, and extraordinarily, I agree, for a long time, and I'm sure that all of you know her, but I am going to say a couple things about her, and you may not remember all of this, but she obviously served in the legislature, I think from 2009 to 2017. She was actually chair of the Health and Human Services Committee. She also served on the Executive Board, State Planning Committee, Banking, Commerce, Insurance Committee, and the Transportation and Telecommunications Committee. I may have missed one. But in 2011, Ms. Campbell also led the HHS Committee Review of Child Welfare Reform. Prior to serving in the legislature, she worked in her family's business, Campbell's Nurseries, and at Cedars Home for Children Foundation as the executive vice president. She's also was a teacher at Lincoln Public Schools and in Arizona public school districts as well. She also served on the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners for 16 years and LES Administrative Board previously. She has also previously served on the Bryan Health Medical Center Board of Trustees and as chair of the UNMC Board of Counselors Advisory Board. Currently, she is on the boards of Open Sky, Community Health Endowment, One Health Accountable Care Organization. She has also formerly served on the Board of Child Guidance as well. We are grateful that she has agreed to serve on the Charter Revision Commission. We know that her experience will be very beneficial to the commission and to the city as a whole. So we hope that you will approve her nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I supposed to say something here?
If you would like to.
If you want.
I was just honored when the mayor contacted me to serve on the commission. After a number of areas of governance, I thought I could lend something to the commission, but most importantly, I would learn things. After the service in the community and the state, you're really looking for opportunities to not only give back, but to learn, and I'm very much looking forward to doing that with my colleagues on the commission and certainly with the city attorney, Mr. Christie. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
Are there any questions or comments? Councilwoman Raybold?
I just want to thank you, Kathy, so much for your years of service and the wisdom that you bring to each one of the many positions you have served. We are the clear beneficiary of your volunteerism and your community activism. So thank you, and your role model to so many, including me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council members like to make any statements?
Thank you.
You know, I want to say I first learned about you and your work when you were in your second term in the legislature. I was a new social worker, very frustrated at the system, our child welfare system, and frustrated at some of the other elected officials. But when I saw you and when I talked with you and when I saw what you did for the children and families in our state, you gave me hope, and hope for our government, and hope for a system that could eventually correct itself out. So it's an honor to vote in support of you in any way, shape, or form, and I'm really thankful for your service. So thank you for always giving people hope.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay.
My name is Mike Davis, Transit Manager for the City of Lincoln, and I am here to introduce Kaylee Hogan Schnicker, and we are recommending her to be a member of the StarTran Advisory Board. Kaylee comes to us with a long list of accomplishments and great experience. Currently, Kaylee is the Director of Talent Strategy for the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development, and has many other exciting experience in her background. We're just glad that she's willing to serve in this capacity on the StarTran Advisory Board, and excited to have her help us with many things that we have going. And with that, I'll have Kaylee introduce herself.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, council members. As most of you know, I'm Kaylee Hogan Schnittker, the Director of Talent Strategy at the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development. I'm extremely excited and honored to receive this appointment and to hopefully serve on the StarTran Advisory Board. I believe that providing an equitable transportation system is key to connecting our community, especially those who have been historically marginalized, to high-quality employment, education, housing, and healthcare. As the City of Lincoln continues to grow, breaking down barriers and creating these connections for our citizens is paramount to a healthy and thriving community. I look forward to bringing an equitable lens to the board and continuing to shape Lincoln into a place where everyone can prosper. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or statements from council members? Councilwoman Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank you, Kaylee, for coming forward. I've had the pleasure of working directly with you over the years, and I can't think of anyone more qualified and more passionate about the population that we serve, and Mr. Davis and the board will really benefit from working with you as well. So thank you for saying yes. We're excited to have you.
Any other statements or comments? Councilman Beckius?
I would just like to express my thanks as well. We really appreciate it, and thank you for recognizing the importance of public transportation in our community, especially as it relates to not only economic development, but also the everyday lives of our citizens. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other statements or comments? No. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on any of these items? Is there anyone else that would like to speak on any of these items? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
We can now vote on these items. Item 1A is appointing Kathy Campbell to the Charter Revision Commission for a term to expire July 15, 2025, introduced by Beckius.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1B is appointing Kaylee Hogan Schnittker to the StarTran Advisory Board for a term to expire October 20th, 2024, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Ward. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1C is approving the on-call professional task order agreement between the city and Olson to provide environmental services for the 84th Street and US 6 intersection safety project, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 1D is approving the on-call professional service task order agreement between the city and Olson to provide preliminary engineering services for the 84th Street and US intersection safety project, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Ward?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
No.
Schob?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-1. Can now move to our Section 3 public hearing resolutions. Item 3A is accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for October 1st through October 15th, 2021.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? I believe we received a letter stating that someone was going to speak on their item for a claim. Now's your time to do so. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. Oh, Councilwoman Raybold?
I didn't know if we could ask legal to go over some of the concerns that were raised in the letter,
Sure.
because I didn't know if we'd have another opportunity when we vote.
Yeah, that's totally appropriate.
Yancey Christie, City Attorney.
Thank you. Our council chair referenced a letter from Alice Miller. I was hoping that you might be able to go over some of the details of her claim that was denied.
Yes, I believe that I could do that. I don't know if you would like for me to just provide information, or if you would prefer that I answer questions. I will also tell you that Miss Elliott, I believe, is prepared to speak on this as well. So.
That would be great, because I did get a lot of details in the letter that was provided, and most likely we'll vote on it today. So if Ms.
Director
Elliott-
Elliott?
Sure. Well, I didn't know if you had questions for me specifically, or if you just wanted me to provide a summary.
A summary would be wonderful.
Okay. Bring up my- All right. I'm just bringing this up right here. Yeah, you can
I
go.
can jump in.
Yeah, you can go.
Liz Elliott, Director of Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. This is an unfortunate incident involving a sidewalk and a trip right in the Edenton North area. There was along 78th Street on, it'd be the north side of Glen Oaks between Fairs and 78th Street is where this took place. There was a sidewalk down the street, so in the same vicinity, but not in the same location where the claimant fell. That there was a sidewalk back in 2017 that we received a claim on, or not a claim, but a complaint saying that there was a raise in the sidewalk. That was down the block. That was not where the claimant here fell. Because of our backlog, we had not reached that Glen Oaks piece of area, and so typically when we do go out to that area, if we have one claim, we would probably look down the block to see if there are others and take care of any other raised areas. When we did go out after we received the claim, we did do a full inspection of that area, and on that we did find 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 locations. One of the 5 was that original 2017 in front of 7922 Glen Oaks Drive, and then the 4 others were down the block, including the area where this claimant explained that she had fallen. So when we do have this, as many of you know, on our sidewalks, it is on a complaint basis. We just have too many miles out there to go on a regular inspection. So what we do is we wait for those calls. We prioritize them depending on what the separation is and what the potential trip hazard is. When we went out in 2017, it was not a top priority for that 7922. Again, that's a different location than where this claimant fell, but in the same close vicinity. So they are back on our list. It's not something at this time that we are going to go out and immediately fix, but it is on the list to be reassessed and determine if that prioritization needs to be shuffled, because obviously there was some change at that 7922 Glen Oaks from 2017, 4+ years ago. So it is on our list, it is on our radar, and are trying to get out there as quickly as possible.
Councilwoman Raybold?
Can you tell us the nature of Ms. Miller's injuries?
It's my understanding from her claim. Sorry, I believe there's another one here today too. So
I think we eventually did receive medical bills a little late, but I think it was around 30,000, at least that she responded, but or that she provided. Several different, maybe 4 different entities, but I believe it totals about 30,000.
There was a broken radius, I think is what it was, I believe on the left hand. Obviously some bumps and contusions and some scrapes, but there was a break that did require surgery, is my understanding.
So Ms. Miller, if her claim is denied, what other recourse does she have?
If her
claim is denied, she always has the option to file lawsuit, file in court.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilman Shob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Christie, Ms. Elliott. Ms. Elliott, you made a point to say that there was another report in this neighborhood that was different from this one. If I remember correctly, in the past when we've seen these issues come up and citizens had for something that they felt the city was responsible, the standard was we had to know about it far enough in advance to repair it. And in this case, there was another indication, but not this one. Is that what you're saying? Is that what?
That is correct, and Mr. Christie can probably elaborate even more. So I'll try not to overstep here. On these kind of cases, we tend to look at 2 different things. The one is the notice. Did we have notice of that specific injury or that specific defect in that area? And so that's why we didn't know about this specific area. We did know one just down the street in the vicinity. The other part, obviously, is it an open and obvious hazard? Because obviously, as pedestrians, we all have a duty to keep our eyes up, scan the area, and make sure that we are making smart and safe decisions. So part of it is a determination of whether or not there's contributory negligence. The other part is, did we have reasonable time to get out there and correct the defect that we had notice of? If we didn't have notice, then there's no duty.
And if I may follow up, just for the record, unrelated somewhat, how many issues are there on the sidewalk repair list? How far behind are we? Can you give me a summary on?
We are about 4 to 5 years behind. So this one's probably starting to get up there. But what we do is we take the priorities where it's 2 inches or greater. Those are our priorities. The other one are the ADA ramps, because we want to make sure everything's accessible that way. That reaches higher on the priority list. And then the ones that are less than 2 inches, they are lower. And those are done merely by time. So once their time's gone, then we'll finally get to them. Now, we do realize that these defects change over the years. So if we do get another call of this area, just like we did here, we'll go out and reassess, was that original 7922 Glen Oaks call, is it now risen to the level of a priority? And this one here, based on our recent assessment, probably has risen to the top because we are at that 2-inch mark.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm going to do one more and then I'll stop, I promise. Concrete cutting. Are most of these things that can be addressed with the concrete cutting process that we use?
Oftentimes they are, which is much more efficient, it's quicker, it's easier, and it's less, it costs less. So we do as many as we can. But obviously, at some point, you can only grind so much, and then we lose too much of the depth of the sidewalk. So some of them, if they are, or we have the kind of spider web cracks, those we can't grind. So these cases often can be resolved with the grinding.
Thank you.
Or the
Thank you,
sawing.
Mr. Chair. I'll stop now.
Any further questions? Councilwoman Raybould?
I just had one more, Director Elliott. You mentioned elevations, but did you specifically say what the elevation was of the area that Ms. Miller tripped over? It sounds like it did not meet that 2-inch threshold, correct?
On that one, I think sorry, I just want to double check on this one. Here's the LT. So on this one, I believe there's at least one of these areas that is 2 inches or greater. I can't tell if it's the 7922 Glen Oaks or if it is the location where Ms. Miller fell. But there is at least one there.
And I want to clarify, I do think that originally it was 7816 was what we originally, that was the original report that we had. And then I think later on, Ms. Miller did call and provided the other location, 7922. So I think the original report was a different address when it was, or at least the original claim when it was filed, and then per phone conversation, she provided a different address, which would have been the 7922. So I think you're following me. So we had two different addresses.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Director Elliott or Attorney Christie? Okay, thank you both so much. Okay, we asked if anyone is here to testify. No one is here to testify. Council had a chance to ask questions out of city staff. I don't see anyone else walk in, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next item.
Item 3B is approving the labor contract between the City of Lincoln and the Public Association of Government Employees for a term effective August 19th, 2021 through August 31st, 2023.
Good afternoon, Council. Doug McDaniel, Human Resources. This labor contract before you with Paige. We've covered this in pre-council some months back. I'll give you a brief overview to refresh your memory. This is a 2-year duration with this contract. Wages for the first year is 3.5%, 3.5% for the second year as well. We added the Juneteenth holiday. We did increase shift differential slightly on both the evening shift and the night shift. We did have some language changes on overtime, callback, and standby pay to resolve a previous grievance. And then some other language changes on operational issues. Again, it's a 2-year contract.
Are there any questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item.
Item 3C is assessing public health nuisance abatement costs associated with the clearing of public nuisances by the Health Department on the following benefited properties: 3069 T Street, 2958 North 54th Street, 826 H Street, 1233 South 25th Street, 3144 Star Street, 1422 D Street, 1920 South 11th Street, 6601 Havelock Ave, 834 South 12th Street, 1619 South 16th Street, 3302 W Street, 2845 Dudley Street, 4543 St. Paul Ave, 6401 Lexington Ave, and 5901 Havelock Avenue.
Good afternoon, members of council. My name is Scott Holmes. I manage the Environmental Health Division with the Lincoln-Lancaster County Health Department. Lincoln Municipal Code 826, nuisances prohibited, requires the health department to investigate nuisances as they're reported to the department, as well as abate conditions if the property owner does not take action in a timely manner that's prescribed by code. We receive about 800 of these kind of complaints per year, and what you have before you is the few that did not heed proper notice and work with us to get the properties cleaned up. So there are basically 15 properties. I think there's amendment on one that did in fact pay recently, and they received notification, of course, about the complaint about the kind of costs that might be incurred if they do not clean it up and the time frames that they have to do that work. And then we do follow-ups through requirements as per code. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
You bet, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 3D is appeal of a special assessment revolving committee recommendation regarding paving district on Humphrey Avenue from North 7th to North 10th Street.
Councilman McGinnis?
Yes, the applicant has asked for a delay of this, but in the meantime, we can have a hearing today. If anybody is down here and wants to talk about it, we can listen to them, and then we'll probably vote on to delay it when it comes to voting, to delay it for a week, with public hearing in a week also.
Sounds good. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item that is here today? Okay. Is there someone here? Nope. Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
We can now vote on these items. Item 3A is accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for October 1st through October 15th, 2021, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Washington. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 3B is approving the labor contract between the City of Lincoln and the Public Association of Government Employees for a term effective August 19th, 2021 through August 31st, 2023, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
McGinnis?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 3C is assessing public health nuisance abatement costs associated with the clearing of public nuisances by the Health Department on the following benefited properties: 3069 T Street, 2958 North 54th Street, 826 H Street, 1233 South 25th Street, 3144 Star Street, 1432 A Street, 1920 South 11th Street, 6601 Havelock Ave, 834 South 12th Street, 1619 South 16th Street, 3302 W Street, 2845 Dudley Street, 4543 St. Paul Ave, 6401 Lexington Ave, and 5901 Havelock Avenue, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Councilwoman Raybold, you're recognized.
I'd like to make a motion to approve amend number 1. It is a substitute resolution that removes one of the properties that Mr. Holmes spoke about that resolve their issues.
Moved by Councilwoman Raybold, seconded by Councilwoman Ward. Any discussion on the motion to amend? Okay, seeing none, may we please do a roll call vote on the motion to amend?
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, now we're back to the main motion, which was already moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the main motion? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 3D is appeal of special assessment revolving committee recommendation regarding paving district on Humphrey Ave from North 7th to North 10th Street, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Schob. Councilman McGinnis, you're recognized.
Yes, I would like to move this and delay this until our next meeting, November 8th, and have public hearing and vote at that meeting.
Second.
Moved by Councilman McGinnis, seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion on Councilman McGinnis's motion?
No.
Okay, seeing none, may we please do a roll call vote on Councilman McGinnis's motion?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
So since we delayed it, we don't need to vote on the main motion because we're delaying it for another week. Before we go to the section 4, just to kind of clarify for people where this might be their first time coming to council to testify, the typical process is that we have the applicant and city go first. They provide information. The council has the opportunity to ask the applicant questions and to ask the city questions. Then after that, we open up to a public hearing where people can then speak on that item. The applicant then has the opportunity to make a rebuttal. When it's your time to come up and speak, please come up and say your name, your address, and you'll be limited to 5 minutes to ensure that we can get through everyone and make sure that we're respectful of other testifiers' time. If you're here to testify about the Antelope Village project, you might notice that there's 3 items. The first one on 4A, it says Antelope Valley. That's not what you want to speak on. That comes up to then 4F and 4G. If you're here to speak about the Antelope Village development, 4F is where you're going to want to testify. 4G is more about a contract, a sale of an alley between the city and the developer. So if you're here to speak on the development, 4F is where you're going to want to speak at. Okay? All right. We'll go ahead and move on then to section 4.
Item 4A is repealing ordinance 20487, which created alley paving district number 51, being the east half of the alley from South 18th Street to Antelope Valley Parkway between N and O Street.
Is the applicant here?
Laura Peglis with LTU. So Alley Paving Special Assessment District number 51 was created by the City Council with ordinance number 20487 in 2017. And the district was to pave the east half of the alley from South 18th Street to Antelope Valley Parkway between N and O Streets. And majority petitions have not been received for this district. Thus, LTU is requesting the repeal of ordinance number 20487 that created the district. And should the property owners in the area have more agreement in the future, they would be able to bring a new request to the City Council to create another district in the future.
Are there any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on item 4A? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 4B is creating paving special assessment district number 2636 for Frontier Road and Pinecrest Drive.
Is there anyone from the city or the applicant that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Wait.
Oh, there we go.
I apologize. Liz Elliott with Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. On this one, there is a request to move it to pending with no date certain at this point. But
Okay, thank you
that
so
would be
much.
it. Thank you.
Anyone?
To do that now?
We would do that at the voting session.
Is there a voting session on this?
No.
No, we'll
We
do
can do
that.
We can do it now. I
Since
think.
this is public hearing,
Go
there's no
ahead.
voting session, right?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Washington?
I believe that there might be some folks in the audience who had come to speak, to testify on this one. And I don't know if we want to hold, if the delay is to hold all pieces or just the vote.
If there's people that are here to speak on item 4B, they are more than welcome to speak now. And then we'll put it on pending, no date certain. Is that correct, Director Elliott?
Mm-hmm.
And then would you like to have public hearing also when it comes up eventually again?
Yes,
Yes, please. And Councilman Shob, you are correct. There is not a,
What she said, none of us heard what she said.
Which she?
Liz.
Director Elliott?
So on this one, we have received a request to put this, to continue it and put it on the pending list for a date uncertain at this time. We would be asking that both the public hearing and the voting be continued, so they could be discussed at that point, should it move forward.
perfect. Thank you. And Councilman Shob is correct. We're not having a voting session on this section now. So if we wanted to go ahead and introduce that motion, we could do that now.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we put this on the pending list, no date certain, with public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Shob, seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Shob?
I'm wondering if my motion is premature, that people want to speak on this. I'm going to vote yes on my motion, but can we still go back and see if there are audience members that want to? There was some trouble hearing in the background. I'm not sure if they know where we are.
Sure.
I'm going to go yes, and we're going to keep going.
Absolutely.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, so again, just to be clear, is there anyone here that would like to speak on item 4B, creating a paving special assessment district number 2636 for Frontier Road and Pinecrest Drive? Okay, perfect. Come on up, and we'll be happy to hear what you have to say.
Kind of fun coming up after the fact, but I'm Art Ziegelbaum.
I thought
I'm Art Ziegelbaum. I'm My wife Chris and I reside at 6601 Pinecrest Drive, and this is fun for me. About 2 decades ago, I was here because of the Beale Slough Stormwater Master Plan, argued against it, and offered to form a task force to study it for 6 months, and if that worked, we would come before all of you and help the city get the plan passed. We did that, and it was in fact written up in a professional journal example of how to get a city process to work. And my reward for that has been sitting on boards and serving on boards and committees for nearly 2 decades, and I appreciate that. I deeply care about the city and its neighborhoods. Sheldon Heights, where we live, is one of the first acreages taken over by the city. We have gravel roads, as you know, no street lights, no gutters. We believe there's no way an urban standards paving assessment would pass. Our neighbors won't go along with it. My wife and I do want to see the road paved, but we'd like to see it paved to rural standards. I testified here for Hawkswood Estates when they did their platting. That was to rural standards. In fact, the area to the north of us is paved to rural standards. So what I'm asking for is not out of the ordinary. The people who made the request, the Cookmans, could not be here today. Dr. Cookman's a heart specialist. His wife is a heart nurse, and they asked me to represent them too. And together we request that this assessment be put on pending. That'll give us time to work with the neighbors and city staff to look at the costs and the impact of paving to rural standards. We have, in fact, hired a lawyer and a civil engineering firm to help us come up with the right costs and make an appropriate proposal to the city. So, as I did nearly 20 years ago, I promise we'll work on this plan and try to get it through the neighborhood and through the system. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is William Seedoff. I live at 6100 Frontier Road. And start off with, I can't believe the foolishness of the drawing of what was proposed. This would leave some people with approximately 20 feet of front yard between their front door and the public sidewalk. Right now, we've been a gravel road since day one. I've lived there for 35 years. A number of people I know that are sitting back here yet have been there that long or longer. And there's only about 2 people that I know of in this whole development that think along the lines of a rural street, a rural paving district. Everyone else is absolutely against it. I happen to own a corner lot, which unfortunately I have 933 feet of lineage frontage. That means, divided by 2, I would be assessed about $240,000 or $250,000 that I get to pay for this street. I have my own city sewer, or I have my own private sewer and water. Obviously, with the paving, they're going to bring down city utilities. Then as soon as they're in my front door, they're going to demand that I hook up to those utilities, abandon my well, abandon my septic system that I've been keeping in good repair all these years. And the other thing is let's say my house is worth $400,000 today. The minute that you assess me $240,000, that means my house is worth $160,000. Now, I've worked most of my working life to pay for my home. And here we are, thinking that that's kind of one of our retirement assets. And here, there's discussion of creating this paving district, and that's not, that $430 a lineal foot proposal doesn't tell you anything about what the other requirements are. That requires each homeowner has publicly or personally got to pay to have sewer and water hooked up to their houses, bringing it out to the public utilities. So there's additional money for that fee. And, you know, right now we're a rural community. We have no street lights. We like it that way. There's only, that I know of, 2 people in this whole district that think about a country road type paving district. The rest of us say, leave us alone. And, you know, and I've been in front of this committee before talking about the idea of county assessment on taxes. And I've said, you know, look, if my house is worth $400,000 today, and suddenly you assess me $240,000 because I'm going to have to pay for this other stuff personally, then suddenly my house is only worth $160,000. So the minute you assess that tax on my property, you should devalue my property at the county assessor's office to $160,000. And that makes total sense. And I actually were right before this group, but not you same people, and said that, and I had a number of people sitting up there said, you know, Mr. Seedoff, nobody's ever presented it to us this way, but that makes a lot of sense. You know, would any of you up there like to suddenly have a $240,000 bill attached to your house? So if you sell it, that's the very first bill that gets paid, because all taxes have to be paid before there's a real estate transaction. And besides that, none of us want it. And you can look directly about a half a block to the east of us to a new development there that was just a pasture about 3 years ago. Now there's 3 big homes on it. What did they get approved? They had a little narrow concrete street, no curb and gutters, no sidewalks, no street lights. That was a brand new development. Why would somebody design a situation like this, come into an existing development to try to tell us that they want us to be a street that looks like downtown Lincoln? I rest.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on item 4B?
My name is Carl Schmidt. I live at 5700 Frontier Road. I'm here to speak against the Sheldon Heights formation of the paving and sidewalk district and the ordinance to create special paving assessment district for Frontier Road and Pinecrest Drive. I ask, isn't this project premature? Should water and sewer districts be formed first and then followed by paving and sidewalks to avoid the extra constructional cost of tear outs and replacement of paving, curbs, and sidewalks? I really like Lincoln, Nebraska. I moved here in 1985, operated a business for 32 years. I purchased my place because of the rural setting it provided, and I would like it to remain that way. Thank you very much.
So much.
Jerry Hines, I live at 5801 Frontier Road. I've also been here since 1987. First off, I'd like to actually thank whoever arranged for the crushed rock to be placed on the road this year. I actually think the road is in better shape this year than it has at almost any other time in the last 33 years. Along with crushed rock, do you get a little dust? Yeah. Is it annoying? Yeah. Is it $1.6 million worth of annoying? No. Happy to put up with a little bit of dust. I think in the people that I have talked to and the other people on Frontier Road in Pinecrest, if there are 12, I believe there are 12 property owners in the area. 9 are definitely against it. 2, I think, are in favor of it. One I don't know. I think putting this on pending for later investigation is a waste of time. It should just be completely forgotten. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm Maureen Polisky. I live at 6200 Frontier Road. Previous speakers have kind of covered it, but my husband and I, David, we've lived out there since 1976, so it's been about 45 years. We moved out there because it was country. It was gravel road when we moved there. That's what we wanted. These are acreages. They're not city lots. We like it that way. We have that country feel. We got annexed because the city grew up around us. They didn't want a pocket of county in the middle of the city. I understand that. But as I said, the majority of us don't want it paved. We don't want sidewalks. We don't want street lights. The character of the area is what we like. When we have visitors, service people that come out to our house and they're first-time people in the neighborhood, their comment is always, what a hidden gem this is back here. So, like with my other neighbors, we would just like to have it stay as it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Kevin Troyer. I live at 6061 Frontier. I'm the newest member to the neighborhood. We've lived there 2 years now, but have a longer history. My in-laws had lived in this neighborhood, know a lot of the neighbors in that neighborhood. One of the main reasons we purchased the home in this neighborhood was because of the setting, because of the rural feel to this area. I'm a general contractor here in Lincoln. I see a lot of developments. I build in a lot of developments. I build in a lot of rural developments. This is very unique setting. The hard thing for me to understand at this point and doing anything to this development is grades have been established for 50 years. The ditches are there, the yards are there. This is developed. To go in here and recreate a setting, I think is wrong, and I think it should just be wiped off of the agenda right now and not put on pending. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Stan Maley, 6700 Pinecrest Drive. Thanks for getting the neighborhood together. This was a little premature, and obviously with only 12 neighbors and all the acreages, it's probably not something we want to see is paving and curbs and gutters. And maybe there's an alternative to keep the dust down, but that is a neighborhood decision, so it's a little premature, and I just, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on item 4B? Okay, it is delayed pending no date certain, and there'll be a public hearing when it is pulled off pending list. Director Elliott, I just got a quick question. When it does get taken off pending no date certain, how would we let the neighborhood know?
We do have a list of the property owners, and we will send out letters to them with the new date, so they are aware.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other final questions from the council at this time? Okay. All right, so we already got that business taken care of, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, please.
Item 4C is creating alley paving special assessment district number 366 from North 33rd and North 34th Street between W and X Street.
Liz Elliott, Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. We did receive a request from the requesting property owners to withdraw this paving district request.
Okay. Before we make the motion to withdraw it, is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing no one here to speak on this item, I would ask for a motion to withdraw it. Councilwoman Washington?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would like to put forth the motion to withdraw.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and move. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote on the motion to remove, withdraw.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 4D is change of zone 05054F, application to Prairie Home Builders, Inc. to amend the existing Prairie Village North planned unit development to revise layout and grading in two areas with waivers on property generally located at North 84th and Adams Street.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Tim Gergen with Clark & Anderson. I'm here representing the developer, owner of Prairie Home Builders, to amend our existing PUD out here at 84th and Adams. We're essentially taking some commercial ground and turn it into residential property. It's kind of a sign of the times, with the commercial property being a little bit slower nowadays, and residential booming. We have development possibilities for a retirement, senior living development on the north side of 84th and Adams. In that area, if you remember, that was back in the day of old Menards site. This is just south of the Walmart out there. And then we have turning into some commercial property along 84th Street in that area into residential. All these new residential areas will be built with nice new gravel roadways, and we'll have, just kidding you, make sure you count that. New City of Lincoln streets.
Soon.
And be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Oh, Councilman McGinnis?
Yeah, so you said you're going to take the B2 ground, that was going to be a big shopping center, and make that into housing?
That's correct.
What are we asking for?
It's still going to be zoned, it's a PUD area, so it'll be still a B2 PUD.
Okay. And then go down where the O3 was?
This will be still residential, so there'll be townhomes in that area.
Okay, so both of them are going to be housing.
That's correct.
Councilman Washington?
Hello, Mr. Gergen. I think when I read the item, it said it was moving from primarily commercial to primarily residential. And I wanted to know, is there any commercial being left?
Yes, well, right now there is an existing bank that is under construction or nearly complete right here at 84th and Windmill.
Okay.
And so that part is going to be commercial. And then we do have the commercial on the edges. And we think that just in this area, there's not enough rooftops really to support the commercial, and we think getting more rooftops in the area will help support that commercial that's left on the outer edges of the arterials.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilman McGinnis?
Well, that use on the inside, would that restrict any other businesses from being located within?
No.
Okay, so you could still do all kinds of...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Any further questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does the city have any information that they would like to present? Okay, seeing none. Are there any questions for city staff from the council at this time? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 4E is change of zone 21040, application of Waterford Estates LLC, Mannion Construction Inc. and Spring Valley Homes Inc. for a change from R4 Residential District to R3 Residential District on property generally located at North 104th Streets and Shorefront Drive.
Good afternoon, members of the council. Danae Kalkowski appearing today on behalf of Waterford Estates, 1128 Lincoln Mall, Suite 105. So this is an area that's kind of on the south side of the lake, just east of the existing townhomes out there. It was zoned R4 back in 2007. At that time, we kind of showed apartments in this entire area. The use changed really to more single-family and townhome. Schmetter Custom Homes is building some townhomes to the south, but this area here specifically got changed back to single-family residential homes. And that's when we discovered there's a difference in front yard setbacks between the R4 zone and the R3 zone, which is the zone all of the other single-family residential is under. Larger setback on the R4 zone, unintentionally causing a little bit of trouble for people trying to build their homes on the lots. So we're just in today asking to change that small area to R3, which is the zone of all of the other single-family residential zoning out at Waterford. So it just makes the setbacks consistent for all single-family homes. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does the council have any questions? Councilman Chobe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Krakowski, for coming forward. So you're actually asking for a change of zone?
Yes, changing it from R4 to R3.
Not amending anything, just going for a full-blown?
Nope, just changing the zone, and all that will really do, it's already platted for single-family lots, it will just change the setbacks when somebody comes in to get a building permit.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Does the city have any information they would like to present at this time? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
Item 4F, change of zone 08066C, application of a surety real estate development to amend the existing Antelope Village Plan Unit Development to add the mixed-use designation on 2 lots and to add density for a residential development with requested waivers on property generally located north of P Street between 22nd and 23rd Street.
I would invite the applicant up.
Hello, good afternoon. Do I need to say my address? 129 North 10th Street, Part 106, Lincoln, Nebraska. Hello, I'm Brett West. Fortunate to have met with many of you to discuss our project, but thought I'd kind of give an overview and try to answer a couple of questions that have come our way. We've met with many people about this project, and we've been working in this area. This is really phase 3 of multiple projects we've done in the area. We're a partner with NeighborWorks to do the townhouse development to the north, and NeighborWorks did the Antelope Creek Village years before. So our project is really this entire block. Fortunately, we were hoping to come in earlier, but we were able to work with the owner of the 7-plex on the corner and acquire that site. So that project, which we were hoping to be in many months ago with just this area, actually expanded to include that corner. And I think that's important because some of the questions have come up about density, and really acquiring that corner cleans up the entire block. However, that was not an inexpensive parcel to purchase and has kind of brought our ability to develop the entire site, and then those additional costs have pushed that density a little further. This is the existing, or this is the project as we have it planned. We have a 2-story area in the northeast corner, which really corresponds with the 2-story and kind of 3-story effect of the townhouse units that surround it. The 3-story building on the south, or on the northwest corner, and the existing apartment that there is a 3-story building, so we felt that that could be appropriate to replace there. And we have a 4-story building which faces the creek and faces the park. And the inside of the project would have all the amenities of your traditional apartments. Here's kind of a rendering from the creek side, looking back to towards the east. This would be the west facade facing the creek. This is kind of an interesting one from the 2-story building. So as you're coming down Q Street going towards the Assurity Center, we developed a 2-story townhouse unit that would, all of these have walk-up, so it feels much like you would a single family or the townhouses across the way. This is kind of a view from the Antelope Creek side, using high-quality materials. A couple of other questions have come up about traffic and parking, so thought I'd address those really with this diagram. We have developed the entry for all of the folks visiting the parcel and the project to the furthest south corner, as far away from the existing neighborhood as we could, really pushing the parking to the south because everybody was kind of coming to this corner. If you parked to the north or to the other side, you'd be walking a block or so away over to the entry corner. We've also been working with the city and staff to develop on the east side of 22nd Street angled parking, so we're adding some parking stalls. We also have met the 1-to-1 by parking under the entire footprint of the project. So we have 152 units on site internal to our project. We have the 152 stalls. If you take into account the parking that we have around, we're also basically at 1.64 stalls per unit. That's higher than most suburban projects that you would see. And these would be the typical maximum 24-hour parking. So these won't be people who are staying a long time. The second part is the Surety Center has a parking deck that is largely unused at night, and we park there every day, so we know that it empties out at 5 o'clock, and so that would be made available to folks as well. Maybe if you have a second car or you don't use your car very much, you're really only a block from this corner. If you're renting over here, you could come right across the bridge and you're less than 2 blocks away from another option for parking. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Really what's before you right now is the change of zoning. And I just wanted to kind of delve into that just a touch. Really the baseline zoning is B3. This is the parcel we're talking about. We have rezoned a number of these to build our townhouses and actually downzoned those and used less than what was previously zoned. This area right here, the height that we're asking for is that we have an allowable 45 feet within the zone already. We're requesting 50 feet just so we have some more room to make sure we design a nice building. We have some parapets that might go above that in our 4-story. However, I want to point out right here, our building height in the 2-story, we're at 23 feet. In our 3-story, we're at 34 feet. In the 4-story, we're right at that 45 foot. The current 2-story buildings, which one of the council members asked us to develop a sketch, if you can see this, these are the townhouses that are across the street that we developed in partnership with NeighborWorks. Our 2-story is shorter than those. Our 3-story is, I think, about 5 feet taller, and the width of this shows the width of the street as you were to drive down it. So it's a significantly wide right-of-way. So there's a lot of ability to get sun down there. We anticipate a very nice landscaping, similar to what's being done at the park across the way and the Surety Center. So that's our proposal. I think the main item that we're asking is the lot area currently allows 90 units. We're asking to do 152. And I talked about the reasons. Another item we really met with and thought long and hard about is traffic. We have limited all access to our project off of 22nd Street. So if you're coming from downtown, you're going to take a quick left and you're in the project. Would not go into the neighborhoods to the east. If you're coming from the other way, you're going to come down the Q Street and again come down that street. So there's really no reason for folks to be outside of our standard two lanes of traffic going in and out of town. We live those streets every day as I drive into work. There's very little traffic, and I've got examples of what we see on a daily basis for parkers on these blocks, and it's very, very few. And so I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does the city have any information that they would like to present at this time? No? Okay. So what's going to happen now is we'll have a public hearing. When you come up, please say your name and your address, and you'll be limited to 5 minutes. The first buzzer you hear means that you have 1 minute remaining to speak. After everyone's had a chance to speak, then I would invite the applicant up to provide a rebuttal.
My name is Pat Schurz. I don't object to anybody making development, but I would like to see them also encouraging people to use transit. And when these people bring their developments forward, they don't say anything about encouraging the people that move in to try to encourage them to use public transit as well. All I hear them talk about is vehicles. It'd be nice to have them also do the other. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Randa, and my address is 2617 Y Street. I'm also the executive director at the Good Neighbor Community Center and the chair for the Cultural Centers of Lincoln. And our interest in this has been the last 2 years when we learned about this opportunity. We did talk to Brett, and it was a good opportunity for the cultural centers to partner with them to be able to bring some low-income housing into this project. So the cultural centers that are included in this, the Good Neighbor Community Center, Malone Center, the Asian Community and Cultural Center, and El Centro, and Ponca Tribe of Nebraska. At this moment, we don't have Indian Center because they do not have staff members there, but all the cultural centers are involved in this and they're in support of this. So on that note, we did apply for a grant with the state, and we were awarded $500,000 to be able to include about 15 low-income families into this. So as the cultural centers of Lincoln, we're in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Mr. Aranda? Okay. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Clems. Last name is spelled Klemsz. My wife Erica and I reside at 2333 Q Street in Antelope Creek Village. I'm a lifelong resident of Lincoln and a proud alum of Lincoln High School and UNL. And before I get into it, I want to thank you all for your service to the community, especially during this time of the last 18 months. I know my time is limited, so I'll cut to the chase. I'm asking you today to reject the application for a change of zone and the waivers to add density and decrease setbacks. If you don't see that fit, then I ask at least that you delay this process to give more time for the developer to gather more input from the community and come forth with changes that address these concerns. I live again in the Hawley Malone neighborhood in Antelope Creek Village with my wife Erica and my two daughters, ages 10 and 8. We've been there for almost 8.5 years now and have fallen in love with the neighborhood, the people, how close it is to downtown and the university, and we truly welcome the opportunity for more people to experience those things, but not like this. I have two major concerns about this project: safety and the character of our neighborhood. Regarding safety, the amount of traffic that will be caused by this large of a development is very concerning. My two daughters attend Elliott Elementary School and frequently bike down to school down Q Street, then 22nd Street, where it meets up with the bike trail right across the street from the entry of this project, the bike trail that goes under P Street, O Street, and N Street, and right by Elliott, which is much safer than crossing P, O, and N street side. My girls are future links too, so we imagine that at least one of them will continue to use this route to and from school to either Elliott or Lincoln High for all but one of the next 9 years. It's by far the safest way to school. Additionally, my wife and I frequently walk or bike to work in downtown Lincoln, either walking down Q and P or using the trail to bike over to the protected path on N Street or the bike lane on R Street near campus. However, if the project happens as planned today, I'm very concerned that biking or walking to school or work will no longer be safe for my family. The developer has estimated a ratio for parking of residents of 1-to-1 units to vehicles. So that's 152 more cars going in and out of the block in question, which I remind you is right across the street from where we access the trail. If that ratio is any higher, and he mentioned it may be, estimates are that households in Lincoln have anywhere from 1.7 to 2 cars per household. That's up to 300 extra vehicles, not even considering guests for these units, in an area that's not appropriate for them or built for them. I don't want to have to send my kids to school and worry about them because of this traffic, or seriously consider sending them walking across O Street because at least there's a crosswalk there. I have many other concerns with this project, including the safety issues with decreasing setbacks, the potential for parking problems, the incompatibility with the bicycle master plan, the lack of community input sought by the developer, the lack of value provided to anyone in this area other than a surety, and the breakneck speed at which this project is now going. But I'll leave you with this. Safety aside, this project is completely out of place in the neighborhood. We're a neighborhood of great diversity, and I believe that diversity is a major strength of our community. But because 90% of these units will be market rate, odds are that the neighborhood will become less diverse overall, therefore less equitable. We have great diversity in the style and type of housing available, but we'll be a neighborhood with this bolted-on project. We have wonderful community resources like the Malone Center, Little Free Pantries, Holly Hamlet, and more, but all this project offers the neighborhood is 152 units and a private pool, which is completely tone deaf if you know anything about the history of this neighborhood. It's no wonder that no one from this neighborhood testified or wrote to the Planning Commission in support of the project, and real community partners like NeighborWorks don't want to be involved. This is just the wrong kind of project for Holly because of its size and its type, and just because they paid a pretty penny for 7-plex on the corner is no excuse to increase the density that we have to deal with in the neighborhood. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for coming out to testify.
Hi, everybody. My name is Randy Ernst. I live at 2348 P Street, and I'm here representing Lincoln's Cultural Competence Center. I'm asking you to delay this decision at worst and to not allow the rezoning at best. I moved into this neighborhood seeking a more diverse and inclusive place. Half of the units that were built when I moved in had to be affordable housing. Let's put this in perspective now. We're talking about 50% of the units had to be affordable housing. You can look at the wonderful and rich diversity of my neighbors, and you'll see that many benefited from the previous concern for affordable housing. Affordable housing helps undo the racist lending practices promoted by redlining that existed in Lincoln and other cities around the country until outlawed in the 1970s. Now we have a business that wants to build a mega complex apartment, 152 units, to be built in our wonderfully diverse and inclusive neighborhood. Of the requested 152, if that's approved, I believe I heard 15 will fall into the category of affordable housing. The rents of the most recent mega apartment complexes, which I can see from my porch in the Telegraph District, I was looking those up. I saw that 1-bedroom apartments are going for $1,350. 2-bedroom apartments are going for $2,495 a month. That last figure is roughly twice what I pay for my entire home mortgage. That's not affordable housing. That's exclusionary. What's being proposed is exclusionary. This project does not help undo the effects of redlining. The failure to offer affordable housing in this mega apartment complex achieves the opposite. It helps those with means and excludes those who have been traditionally marginalized. It should say something that nobody in our neighborhood wants this. Nobody. I did read the Planning Commission's report, and it said some of the residents seem to be resistant, that change is hard. And that's not true. Good change is welcome. When the single-family dwellings were built along P Street, that was welcome. When the single-family dwellings along Q Street were built, that also was welcome. When the housing along 22nd Street and 23rd Street and 24th Street was built, we embraced that. This change is not welcome, and it does nothing to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in this neighborhood. We see this proposal as culturally incapacitating and culturally destructive to the current residents, of which I am one. I take pride in how our city concerns itself with issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Building this apartment in our neighborhood with rental rates that run higher than what I pay on a mortgage does nothing to improve the diversity and inclusive nature of this neighborhood. Approving this plan, that's what cities that don't care about diversity and inclusion do. Approval will represent and signal a return of exclusionary housing practices for those who can afford $2,450 for a 2-bedroom apartment. I ask you to delay this request and ultimately to vote down the rezoning. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Dear City Council members, thank you for your service. I am deeply grateful for each and every one of you. Tonight, I am speaking for myself as a resident of 2311 Q Street, directly across from this proposed project. When I first met my now husband, Ryan, I lived in Huntington Beach, California, where I served as a city council member and also as a planning commissioner. As I began to contemplate moving to Lincoln, I knew nothing about Lincoln. I Googled Ryan's address, and I immediately felt better when I saw that there were Asian restaurants, Arab markets, a Mexican market, and so much more diversity located a few blocks away on 27th Street. I thought to myself, not so bad, maybe I could live here. When I moved here, I found out that Ryan lived in a market-rate NeighborWorks home. And as I found out more about the NeighborWorks program, I knew that this was something important and I wanted to be a part of it. Consequently, I am in my 6th and final year on the board and have served as the president for 3 of those years. I learned that NeighborWorks has spent a lot of time and money, and the city of Lincoln as well, creating affordable housing, rehab, homes, and finding homes for people to buy and providing down payment assistance to allow people to get a stake of owning their own home and the inherent stability that that provides. As I find out more about my neighborhood, I learned that it was a neighborhood that has been through a lot and has historically been put upon much. But also that NeighborWorks has been working in our neighborhood for at least 15 and maybe more years. Many people would say that NeighborWorks has stabilized our neighborhood. I know all of my neighbors that live in the Elliott Creek Village townhomes, and I'm so proud of their testimony. I agree with all the testimony that they've so eloquently had so far. You know, I also know many people by name on the other streets and on the other blocks in my neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that cares about our neighbors, and we care about the well-being of our neighborhood, more than any place I've ever lived in my 61 years. We have several apartments for the developmentally disabled in our neighborhood, and those residents are part of the fabric of our diverse neighborhood. Several times a week, we see residents from Centerpoint going by on a good-natured outing. Other times, we say hello to people who've just been to Catholic Social Services or Lutheran Family Services. Some of us use the community garden that's a block away, and then there's the Holly Hamlet, which is another story altogether. It's all part of the Malone-Holly vibe. Neighbors helping neighbors. And, you know, I have to say that I am grateful that Assurity has been a good neighbor up to this point, playing the part in the development of the Antelope Valley developments. I'm also happy that they and the city changed the ingress-egress to the 22nd Street. That makes a lot of sense. It makes the development make more sense. And I'm also happy that they are sensitive to the height. However, we are concerned about this project that they've proposed. First, why did they not ever ask us what we thought, what we would like to see? We first heard of this project when they proposed a smaller project in June. Then it was paused when they purchased another lot, and then they just maximized this project like hell. They never reached out to us until September when they held a meeting at Assurity with less than a week's notice. The developer of this proposed project does not seem interested in our neighborhood. The affordable housing is there because without it, there wouldn't be a profit. Both Antelope Square and Antelope Creek Village are both 50-50 affordable to market rate units. This project is not a good fit with our neighborhood because so few of our neighbors will be able to afford to live there. So I would like you to reject the zoning request. What I would like the council to do is to require that the planned bike lanes for P and Q Street between 27th and Antelope Creek Parkway be constructed concurrently with this project, if approved. If more people from this proposed parking project are going to bike downtown and to work, then let's help them by putting these bike lanes in place for their arrival. will also help to calm the streets, reduce traffic speeds, and may help to deflect some of the parking and traffic concerns. Let's put new urbanism to the test. Make this a condition. I don't think I have time to say the rest of it, but what I would like to say is that I would like you to reject the zoning change and keep our neighborhood affordable. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name's Nicole Bauer, and I live at 2339 Q Street. I'll start with my ask. I would like for you to please not authorize the waivers that are under consideration, specifically the reducing of the front yard setback from 10 feet to 0 feet, increasing the height limit from 45 to 50 feet, and allowing up to 156 dwellings on Lot 1. I believe that if Surety wants to build in our neighborhood and be a true neighbor, they should be required to conform with the zoning laws as they're set. So I moved to Lincoln 13 years ago after considering many college offers, and there was something about Lincoln that really spoke to me and the values that I hold. Since then, I worked at Catholic Social Service first out of college, and that's when I first fell in love with the Holly neighborhood and chose to build my family and our home there. I am expecting my first child, and I have been looking forward to getting to take my family to the park, and I'm worried now with the traffic, and I'm worried how this is going to change our neighborhood to the point where it's making me think about whether or not I want to relocate. And it's sad because I do very much value what Holly neighborhood has to offer. I have a bilingual, bicultural home, and I value that diversity and its proximity to downtown. I want to share just a little bit of what I did yesterday. I don't know if that shares. No. So this is our neighborhood, and I drove around, and our neighborhood as it is right now looks very welcoming and friendly. And when you look down the Antelope Creek Park, you see the Telegraph District, and it's just this monstrosity of a building down there. Similarly, when you look down P Street to downtown, you also have these giant fortresses of buildings that have the 5/1 construction where the first floor is concrete and the rest is wood, which is kind of what the pattern is that Assurity's proposing. And I drove around our neighborhood, and including the new developments and apartment complexes that are being built, nothing's higher than 3 stories except for one, which is a university-owned graduate student family housing building that has 4 stories, but the first floor is half submerged underground. Most of the 3-story buildings in our neighborhood, apartment complexes, have their first floor underground too, partially, and none of them take up more than half a block. So this project is really incongruent with everything else that exists east of the park, south of Vine, north of O, and west of 27th Street. So I would encourage you to please, as you've heard our testimonies, vote down the waivers being requested and ask a surety, who I'm really excited to see this block developed and want to see it developed, come up with a plan that's more congruent with the rest of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to provide comment on this item?
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Halverson. I live at 6311 Inverness Road, which is a long way away from this project. So I don't have a direct influence on it, but I find issue with the fact that they're talking about bringing affordable housing. And you look at the prices, affordable to who? Because as some of these people already pointed out, the people that live there now couldn't afford to live there in one of these new affordable housing apartments. So I don't believe waivers should be granted under the guise of providing affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Okay, does the council have any questions for city staff at this time? Councilwoman Raybold?
Yes, I'm hoping Dan Marvin could come up and talk a little bit about housing affordability in the neighborhood and the history. And the reason why I ask it, I did attend a neighborhood meeting, and I heard that comment time and time again, that they would like to see more affordable housing in the neighborhood, which is somewhat unusual compared to some of the concerns we've heard from other neighborhoods. They want less affordable housing in their neighborhood, but this is a neighborhood that I think the residents have spoke about, that they really care about diversity and inclusivity and equity. And so could you tell us a little bit more about the development that has occurred in the neighborhood and affordability?
Dan Marvin, Urban Development, 555 South 10th Street. Thank you for asking me to come forward. Wayne Ermstead has shepherded this project from the very beginning in 2007. As many of you know, this was an area that was prone to flooding, so the concept here was to try to develop a roadway that would create throughput through this area, resolve the flooding issues, and reinvigorate the neighborhood. And I think we're still in the process of trying to tally the numbers of that development that started in 2007, but some of the data that she shared with me was that since 2007, there's been about $270 million of private investment in the Antelope Valley area, and an additional $37 million in tax increment financing, so a total of $307 million. Some of it, some of the housing affordability you would see when you come in on Vine Street. There were some projects that were put up by Fernando Pages. Those were affordable housing units that went in. There's some owner-occupied that were affordable housing units as well. There's been some student housing that's gone in on the west side of the roadway, which would be the Aspen student housing project. But total number of non-student housing projects that have gone in since it was built, which would include Telegraph as well, so 978 units in that area have gone in since that. And the count on workforce and affordable housing units that have gone in there have been about 189 units is what we've come up with. So I don't know if that was some of the information that you're looking for, but I think we're still trying to come up with a tally for all the investments, but it's been significant in the area.
And I know Assurity is going to be offering 15 units in the complex of 152 units. What are you seeing as some impediments to other developers for not adding more? I mean, 15 seems like a reasonable amount, but what are some of the impediments, or what are some of the tools the city has to offer developers to add more?
And some of the projects that have come forward to this body that have involved tax increment financing for affordable, we have asked for a 10% number for affordable units in cases of 20-year TIF. We have, on occasion, the project on Vine Street provided a number that was closer to 15%, so we have increased the affordable units in that respect. But we have certainly offered assistance in areas where people have provided a 10% level of housing affordability at 60% area median income.
So with tax increment financing, I believe we build up a threshold or a certain amount of money once we hit the administrative costs for the
Correct.
city. the surplus will be allocated to affordable housing. So how does it look for this budget year that we're in, and are we exceeding that surplus and being able to offer more incentives or tools to the developers?
We've just started the budget year, and I need to go back and review, but I think that the last time I looked at where we were, we had, we expect to be able to add to that balance again in the current budget year that we're in, and the amount that we would add will depend on the number of projects that we do, but it could be, normally we budget about $100,000 a year per budget cycle towards affordable housing that comes from that fee that is charged through TIF admin.
Thank you very much.
You have any more questions, Councilwoman?
No, I'm
Rabel?
good, thank you.
Councilwoman Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Marvin, so did you indicate $307 million has been spent in this area since 2000?
Since 2007.
Okay.
The flood-prone area, which would extend from Telegraph District north up through Vine Street, would be the project area that we would consider the Antelope Valley area.
Okay. Do you know, because we get asked, and today we've been, it's been pointed out to us, average rent on affordable housing is sometimes not reachable. Do you have an idea of the average rent over this period of time for affordable housing as a comparison?
Well, I think that, that question came up the other week with the person who wants to build the low-income housing tax credit. Those types of projects that are run through the state that have a 60% area median income, Gatehouse Row, the project, the Middle Creek that was before, generally depends on the number of people that are living in that apartment complex. If it's a single person, the rental rate would be around $800 a month. If it's double or triple occupancy, you could be pushing up towards closer to $1,000 a month on the affordable side of that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Shob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Marvin, thank you very much. Councilwoman Ward stole part of my question, was how do we define affordable housing or affordable rents? I think you did just answer that. I'm not sure if this question is directed toward you, or maybe Mr. Carey could help. It's listed on our agenda as a change in zone, and I'm not seeing the change in zone in here. I see the waivers, but
I think that's going to be a David question, but as David's coming up here, let me just kind of work through the math for people on how you determine housing affordability. There's a cost burden number. Cost burden is 30% of your income can go towards housing. Housing generally is defined as rent and utilities. So if you were making $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year, then 30% of that $3,000 could go towards rent utilities, and the balance would be everything else. So that's the way they determine a cost burden number.
Ms. Councilwoman Ward asked, I'm not going to do a very good job of her. What is the average rent price in the city of Lincoln? She didn't really ask that question. She asked something like that.
Well, let me, I have somebody, a statistician in my office who's very good at that. I can ask Kurt to provide you that number in the coming weeks here.
I feel that each one of us has a different number for what we think is affordable.
Right.
And what actually is being paid by renters in this city is very different from that.
I think what we would say is the apartment that already exists right now that doesn't have to go under new construction costs and all the other elements that go in towards building new construction, the apartment that exists right now is an apartment that can prove to be affordable. That doesn't mean all existing apartments right now are affordable, but the most affordable units that are the ones that currently exist. And so that's why the other element that we want to try to do through our office is a rental rehab program to try to rehab the existing apartments that we do have so that we can provide quality affordable housing. It's really hard on the new construction side to be able to build new construction to equal the rent rates that current affordable units that are out there.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Raybold?
Well, I know that we've heard from some developers that have been using LIHTC low-income housing tax credits, and they spoke about how they needed to have that volume, that density of a project to be able to maximize the cost of construction. And so on a project this size, and I don't know if that's up David's alley either, but is a project this size with a density of 152 units, is that a more desirable project for qualifying for a LIHTC funding?
I think that's maybe a question for Mr. West.
Okay.
I don't believe that what he's applying for is a LIHTC project. What he's applying for are DED dollars that will piggyback onto the other private dollars that he has, and within that, there's a context of providing some level of affordability for the project, but I'd let Brett speak to that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Washington?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a number of questions about the change of zone. So just so that I have a clear understanding, I've been trying to go back through and look at the history of this project. So I know it's been in the works for a while. And the project, and now I need you to correct me, when this project began, it was zoned R6.
Correct.
And now it looks like it is mixed use B3?
Yes, I think it'd probably be best to answer the question that Councilman Shob had, which is, what is the zoning change?
Yes.
So the change of zone that's before you is a change of zone to the plan unit development that's been approved already. That was approved back in 2009.
Okay.
So it's the Antelope Valley PUD, or plan unit development. A PUD is effectively a zoning status, even though we're not talking about an R6 or a B3. It's the zoning that was approved back then, so it has zoning status. So whenever a change comes forward from that original plan unit development, we consider it a change of zone, and that's what this version of that is. There have been several changes of zone or PUD amendments of this area in the past as well, and this is another one.
Okay. So when the PUD was first granted, what was the height requirement or the height limitation?
So what I'll boil it down to what this block had on it, or has on it, I should say. What it would be allowed to do is be able to allow up to 45 feet.
Okay.
And so that's why you have a waiver as part of this change of zone for the southern part of the block to go from 45 feet to 50 feet for the higher density units that are part of this proposal.
Thank you. That clarifies, because I was looking at R6, which allows 55 feet. So I was like, okay, they've gone down.
Yeah, so it's what was approved in the actual PUD back in 2009 is where we start from now.
So we're starting at 45 and they're asking for 5. Okay. And then the density that's allowed right now with the PUD, is that 90?
It would be 90 units for this area that we're talking about.
Okay. And is there anything like the 10% of affordable housing or anything that's given, change the math so that there's some bump up that allows a greater density?
So this proposal, as it's been put before you, doesn't account for that. It's not using that bonus. It's really it's a project proposal that is being requested to allow for more density than what would currently be allowed by right.
Okay, so by right it is 90.
Correct.
And so the project they don't qualify for a bonus for affordable housing. The project is asking for another 50% plus.
Yeah, I think that's the question before you, that you weigh the benefits of the project versus what is there in the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. I may have more questions at a different time.
Anyone over on this? Councilman Job?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Carey, thank you for going back to my original question. What is the change here? The change is a request for waivers in density, height, and is there anything else?
There's a setback waiver request on 23rd and Q Street to go down to reduce it down to 0 feet. And that is being driven by, there's a utility easement of 10 feet that is needed in order to function there. And we're recommending approval of that as well, mainly because there is a 40-foot spacing because of the large parkways that are there that make this area a nice place. A setback there from the back of curb to where the building would be under this proposal. So there's still, a reasonable amount of space there. So we're recommending that waiver to be
That
approved.
keeps the streets the same width.
Correct.
Okay, keep going.
And again, just to back up, so the waivers that are being requested, those are the required change to the zoning of the PUD are these waivers because these items have been established in the existing PUD. There's the height waiver that was already brought up by Councilwoman Washington. That is to go from 45 to 50 feet. And then there is the more driving waiver of allowing more density on this for this project on this block.
So if the developer had not asked for these waivers, they wouldn't be before us now? They could just go ahead and build a 90-unit development with...
If somebody wanted to come forward with a project that abided by all of the existing approvals for the PUD, they could do that project.
Okay. So they could build an apartment building there up to 45 feet tall with 90 units?
Yeah.
And some other consideration, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you, that was my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Raybold?
Thanks, David. I know the concerns that I heard from the neighbors were really about the density, and they were puzzled why it jumped up from 90 to 152. And I think with that jump up in the density came the angst and concern about parking, but primarily traffic. And so then from what I heard, they talked about how can we link other traffic calming things. And they brought up the bike trail. Can that be tied into the construction process? And I don't know, I'm going to ask you, are there other traffic calming elements that could be implemented in the program, particularly on 22nd Street, which I believe is where a lot of the cars will be going through into the underground parking garage. And so I heard from some of the neighbors that they're concerned about kids that are walking or biking in that area. So I'm asking for suggestions. What are some typical traffic calming measures that we put in situations like that?
Sure. I'll back up to one of your first points. Certainly the parking has been part of the conversation. The point about parking goes back to the original approved PUD for the Antelope Valley PUD. That requirement still is a 1-to-1 ratio, and they are meeting that requirement. So that's why you don't see a waiver on the parking, because they're meeting that requirement already. The access that was discussed earlier in the process as being a concern, and that is centralized on 22nd Street now. So there is one ingress point that does help with where the traffic is going and not going, for that matter, for in and out of this development. That was something that was discussed earlier and was addressed as part of the process. As far as traffic calming, I know that our Lincoln Transportation Utilities Department would be willing to discuss those options. Typically, those types of things are not implemented until there is a noted issue, as for whether it's speed or if it's turning movements, or there's a crossing that's been compromised in some way by a new situation. So I'm not an engineer, so I'm not going to speak to exactly what could happen on these types of streets where we have the grid pattern. The grid pattern typically does help with speeds. I think there is a concern, generalized concern about P and Q Street speeds. They do carry significantly more traffic than the north-south streets through here. And so that is where we have the discussion ongoing about the bike lane project, which we are supportive of getting that project done as well. That is earlier on in the process as far as studying exactly what could be done, how the design could be done, how wide width of the right-of-way do we have to work with, And then will there be parking or no parking, and how would you fit in bike lanes? That type of project would certainly be a traffic calming measure on P and Q Street. But when you have a less wide street in general, that slows traffic down. Parking can do that as well. So any combination of these things can really help with speeds, especially. We're too early in the process of studying for that project to know what is exactly going to happen, and that will have a lot of public discourse as well before it's decided on what to do there. So that's a long way of saying, yes, there's things that you could do, but I don't think we're quite to that point of knowing what would be done around this area yet.
And then I just have one more question. I know that some of the neighbors that spoke here tonight requested a delay. Do you know, has Mr. Weston assured he had met with the neighbors a number of times, or one single time to go over the design and the plant changes? Certainly I did hear some concern about the density increase, but
I think you could certainly speak directly to the applicant on rebuttal, but I would say that we do know that there was at least one meeting held. So we don't require those types of meetings as part of our process. It's not a requirement to meet with the neighborhood wherever a project is. It is good practice. We do support that. We think it does help the process go along better. So I am aware of at least one meeting that did occur. I can't speak to the rest of the details, though.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for city staff? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then I would invite the applicant to come back up and provide a rebuttal.
Hello, Brett West, returning to the stand. I wanted to bring up a couple of things. First of all, we have been available. We have not been shy about who's applying. We had a September meeting that we made the NeighborWorks Lincoln representatives were there and invited, as well as the neighborhood within the 300 feet, as well as I had met with the neighborhood association president from the project over here. I'd listened to anybody who calls. We were not shy. I understand there was a meeting that happened more recently, and we would have been happy to be there, but we weren't invited. And so I think in the future, if there are meetings, that invite the applicant, invite the person who's the developer, and ask us to be a part of the conversation. If you have concerns, we're happy to listen to them, answer them as best we can. We've also been at Urban Design Committee, which was a public forum. We're in front of Planning Commission, which was a public forum. And we're past 7-0 in those. We listened to the public concerns. There were 2 at Planning Commission. There were none at Urban Design. So I feel like we've been a part of this for a while and kind of had our open hands to listen. And, we understand we may not always agree with what folks say, and so that's the reason we're here. So I'd like to talk about a couple of comments about affordable housing. We are proposing 15, so 10%. We did apply to the state grant. We're the only one in Lincoln that was awarded a grant of this sort with mixed use, mixed income. So this is new to the state. We're really excited to partner with the cultural centers to put that proposal together. NeighborWorks was awarded 2. Those are for sale product. This is new. We're excited about bringing. We think it marries state funds with city funds and makes affordable 15 units, which we were a part of these projects over here. So we did 12 affordable for sale housing with NeighborWorks Lincoln. We asked them 2 different times to be a part of this project, and we just couldn't figure out how to make that work. We agreed to go our way, they agreed to go their way. So we feel like we have been a part of developing and redeveloping the neighborhood. Many of I don't recall the exact amount, but we were partnering with NeighborWorks to purchase the projects and properties on this site, and we purchased a number of those from NeighborWorks Lincoln. So we feel like we've been in partnership in the neighborhood for a while. So that's all I'll say about that. The second thing is traffic and connection. So both sides of the street will continue to have the full sidewalk, and in fact, I'd say better, because there will be new sidewalks there, because if you walk that, which I do often, it's not very safe to take this sidewalk, which will connect right into the Q Street connection as well. So we feel like we're going to continue to improve the walkability of the neighborhood. I also want to remind that all the units along that are on the first floor, we don't have a concrete base with units above. Our parking is all in the basement. So the first floor units will feel very similar to the units across. They'll actually be more on grade than up the 7 steps, or 4 or whatever when you're in one of the townhomes. And by the way, that was one of my designs personally. I'm an architect by training. So the NeighborWorks projects, which are over here, I personally designed those. In fact, I personally painted some of those and helped install the fences on some of those because we were new and we were trying to do the right thing and hold the price points as best we could. I'm embarrassed to say how much I painted on some of those personally. Because the painter wasn't getting it done and I wanted people to move in. So I feel like we've put personal time in here. I want to assure them that myself, CIP, Prester, Assurity will continue to put personal effort in being a good neighbor. We specifically partnered with Tom Randa and his great group, and we put in some amenities, and I agree it's mostly housing. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but we do have a very nice community room in right on this corner that we intend to open up for the cultural centers or public to use. Our whole idea is to hopefully make it an inclusive place that invites people. These are mostly 1-bedroom apartments. They're there to continue to get residents to live, work, stay downtown, hopefully fall in love with the neighborhood and the amenities around it, and buy housing in the neighborhood and stay in Lincoln long term. That's the goal. And so I think we've tried to design a project that has a good mix, but is respectful. I've worked very hard on designing this to have the 2-story blend into the neighborhood up to the 3-story, but not be a block and not be a big wall to the neighborhood. But this is the design we felt was appropriate, and I hope that we have done our best to reach out to the neighbors. We have tried to go above and beyond, and we've always been available. I've met with the president of the association, Brad, and we had a very good dialogue about concerns not only he had, but what he'd heard from neighbors. I heard from NeighborWorks on a couple of concerns, thus the reason we moved 22nd Street access. Actually, one of the changes to the PUD is the current PUD recommends access off of 23rd, so we have to amend that to get onto 22nd, which we believe is better. Adding parking along here, actually supporting more parking on the street will slow down the traffic, and we have committed to $400,000 of TIF to the city, and one of the things is to create the bike lane connection up next to our properties on P and Q. So we definitely want to encourage use of transit, less use of car, more use of of bikes, walking, enjoying this neighborhood like Assurity does right across the street. So hopefully I answered some of the questions. Rent. So that might come up. We're not doing $2,800 rents here. So just to be clear, our program with the state is, and this will come up in the redevelopment agreement later on, it's 80% of the AMI. So we are following the home guidelines for 80% AMI, which is what we followed on these properties across the street. So if your annual median income is below the 80% threshold, then there's a rent that's set at 65%, which is really the 30% of the income cap, 30% of that minus the utilities. So those units that are within that program will be available, and that's what Tom Rand is here to help us promote, is make sure we get diversity, inclusive, make sure everybody's aware, so we don't end up with just somebody who hasn't made money yet, or just falls under this right now, but somebody who wants to live here for a longer period. And our base rents will be, probably the studios will be in the 900 range, our 1-bedrooms will be in the 1,000 to 1,100 ish range, construction pricing aside, we'll see how that goes. And then our 2-bedrooms, which by the way, if you separate, like I was saying, if I lived with a friend of mine, those are probably in the $1,200 to $1,400 range. Well, I could afford my half for $600 to $700. They could afford their half for $600 to $700. That's cheaper than the rent-restricted studio that I can create. So we are trying to create diversity through diverse types of housing units and utilizing programs that have yet to be done in Lincoln and partnering with the cultural centers. And that's, we believe we're trying to be good neighbors.
Are there any questions for the applicant at this time? Councilwoman Raybold?
I just want to talk about 22nd Street and some of the traffic calming measures that you are suggesting, and your thoughts on what you have seen worked in other developments.
Yeah, I think, well, we met with LTU quite a bit too. They've had input. The angled parking and people backing in and out will slow down traffic, and this will have parking on both sides. And actually, that will be a traffic calming mechanism. We're happy to talk with the neighbors or come up with LTU about better ways to stripe. What we've done out of Surety is have larger striping areas at the crosswalks, so people stay a little bit further back. You know, the tendency to kind of sneak out in the crosswalk. So we're happy to look at details and keep working on that. But we feel like those two and getting more cars on those streets will slow things down, because people will slow down to go into that parking spot. And right now, well, I could show you pictures from today. There's nobody parked on these streets. There's nobody parked in front of the Assurity Center on the angled parking there. So the more we can do, the better.
And then just one last question.
Sure.
I know that you have reached out to the neighbors, and at the meeting on September 20th, I wasn't clear, but was it at that meeting that Assurity presented the increase in density to the neighbors?
No, the increase in density happened before that meeting, and so we were intending to do a project. It was still 130 units. The proposal before we purchased this 7-plex on the corner was still going to be 130 units. So it wasn't a significant change. We might add 128. We went to 152. We're losing 7 that are already on site. So the net difference is, it wasn't like we were coming for a 90-unit project at any point in time. We had always been proposing something like that. Very far back as well, we had this conversation. I did apply for a LIHTC project on the south half of this, and we were nowhere near being awarded. The pricing was way out of line, couldn't make it work, because a lot of these projects have free land or significant incentives, and that's just something we couldn't get put together, and just constructing of this type didn't get those projects done. So we did apply for that 5 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you so much. So we had an opening, we had city staff provide information, we had a public hearing, the applicant just provided his rebuttal. So we're going to go ahead and close on that item. We are past the 2-hour mark, so we are going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll be back at 5:25.
Great. Okay.
What's that? All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. If folks can find their seats. We'll start off with item 4G. Oh, Sony's not here yet.
Tom?
Item 4G, Street and Alley Vacation 21006, application of a surety real estate development to vacate the entire east-west alley between P and Q Street from North 22nd Street to North 23rd Street.
Fantastic.
Dr. Marvin?
Fantastic job. Dan Marvin, Urban Development, 555 South 10th Street. I think this is related to the other issue that we had. This would be an alley vacation for the proposed surety project to go forward. They were going to use the alley as a route into the underground parking garage. And there are some utility easements in there, sewer line, and LES. And Michelle had priced it out at $15 per square foot, times reduction by 80%, so our cost per square foot we were going to charge was $3 per square foot for the alley area. All likelihood, the utilities will be relocated, but not at our cost, at the expense of the developer.
Are there any questions for Director Marvin at this time? Councilman McGinnis?
Yes, Director Marvin, is this contract set up that it's co-terminus or co-works with the project if we don't vote for changing the zone or any of that, and they don't move forward with the project? Do they still buy the alley?
It's a good legal question, and I don't know if anybody from the law is here to answer that question.
We'll get that answered.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good question, though, that's for sure. I will get an answer for you.
Any other questions for Director Marvin? Okay, thank you so much. I understand we have a gentleman who missed the opportunity to speak at the last item, so I'd go ahead and invite him back up to get his voice heard.
My name is William Seedoff, and I'm just speaking on behalf as a Lincoln citizen and taxpayer. And, you know, the bottom line to this whole thing is it's just money. You know, a surety is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Their only idea to change from 90 density to 152 is squeezing more apartments in there, increasing their profit margin. Their profit margin isn't hurting now, so do we need to inconvenience anybody in this city to increase their profit margin? That's all they're worried about is profit, profit, profit. It's not the community. It's not looking out for the city of Lincoln. And I think too many people forget about that. It shouldn't be all about money. Tax increment financing, I'm sorry, my opinion and my generation thinks that's the stupidest thing that was ever created. Back in my days, early in the business world, what'd you do? You made money the hard way. You worked for it. You didn't ask the taxpayers to up you X number of millions of dollars to create a development or squeeze a new building in a blighted area. You just did that. You worked it into your cost. And sure, it hurt your profit margin for a little while, but it still happened. And I can guarantee you, surety is still going to build 90 units down there if you turn them down. It's not a give me 152 or it's not going to happen. And I'll give you 10-to-1 odds on that bet. And you know, it's all about money, and it shouldn't all be about money. And us taxpayers are paying for every penny of that tax increment financing you're giving back, one way or another. And the city of Lincoln taxes are some of the highest in the country, and that's why at retirement age, a lot of people move out of the city, out of Lincoln, out of Nebraska, period, because taxes are so high compared to Kansas, anybody else around, is because Nebraska is taxing us retired citizens to death. And part of it is TIF along with other things. I just wanted to remind you, council, of what you're really thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item.
Okay.
Item 4H, I'll be calling items 4H and 4I together. Item 4H, approving the lease agreement between City of Lincoln and St. James United Methodist Church for the lease of office space by Aging Partners for its senior center program at 2400 South 11th Street for a term of 1 year from September 1st, 2021 to August 31st of 2022. Item 4I is approving the lease agreement between City of Lincoln and AL Irrigation for the lease of office space by Aging Partners for its personal and family services program at 137 North 8th Street, Geneva, Nebraska, for a term of 1 year from August 1st, 2021 through July 31st of 2022.
Good afternoon, Randy Jones, Director of Aging Partners. And Councilmember McGinnis, the next time we go around, these will be negotiated for longer than 1 year terms. But I just wanted to mention real quick, the St. James United Methodist Church lease is for a senior center in the near south area. The lease with AL Irrigation in Geneva, that's our responsibility as one of the state providers, and that's paid for by state funds, not city funds. I'm available for questions.
Are there any questions, Councilwoman Washington?
Director Jones, this is not a question but a comment. I want to commend Aging Partners on the vast variety of spaces that you rent to make certain that senior services are provided to the entire area that you work to benefit.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's important.
You seem very creative.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Director Jones? Seeing none, thank you so much. We'll move on to the next item. Or is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, please.
Item 4J is approving a supplement to sublease agreement for 5-year term with the option of 3-year additional 5-year terms between the city on behalf of Aging Partners and Victory Park LLC for property generally located at 600 South 70th Street.
This is a supplemental sublease between the city and the developer Burlington Capital and adds 5,600 square feet to the Victory Park project to accommodate 23 of our staff members from Aging Partners. The developer has agreed to provide the additional space under similar terms as the original sublease, which means no square footage cost or rental. A proportion of the routine business costs, such as utilities and common area maintenance, will be reimbursed by the state of Nebraska, and the city will be responsible for maintaining the building. The initial term is for 5 years and may be extended in increments of 5 years until it's reached 20 years. If we compare this to the market rate, over the course of the 20 years, this project's valued at $2.1 million. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on.
I'll be calling items 4K, 4L, and 4M together. Approving the Atrium Building redevelopment agreement between Atrium Building LLC and the city relating to the redevelopment of property generally located at 1200 N Street. Amending the fiscal year 2021-22 CIP to authorize and appropriate $3,651,1700 in TIF funds for the Atrium Building redevelopment project, and authorizing the issuance of tax allocation bonds for the Atrium Building redevelopment project in the amount not to exceed $3,651,017.
Good evening. I am Dallas McGee with the City Urban Development Department, 555 South 10th Street. I'm here to talk about this redevelopment project of this historic building. I'll show the project area here. The building was built over 100 years ago, 1917. Back in the 1970s, it was redeveloped for a mixed-use complex, office and retail. At the same time, the city was encouraging skywalks, and this block is actually the hub of the skywalk system, and I'll get into that in a little more detail later, but that was a key part of the development of this building. In recent years, the building has changed, and much of the retail has disappeared, and the building the offices in the building are about 50% occupied at this point. So the building was recently purchased by two local development team consisting of two developers, the Speedway Properties and Nelnet. The property is located on N Street between 12th and 13th, shown in the yellow on the map. And the project area that we can spend the TIF in is shown in the dashed lines. It's the streets surrounding the project itself. The redevelopment agreement before you today outlines how the building will be developed and how the TIF will be spent to assist in that redevelopment. The total investment in the building is $21,850,000. Of that, $18 million is private funding, over $18 million, and just over $3.5 million is TIF that's generated from the redevelopment of the project. As we were putting together the redevelopment agreement with the developers, we had three things in mind that we wanted to accomplish. One is get the building redeveloped, and that is the key piece of our redevelopment agreement. It identifies what the developer will do, how the city will assist with TIF, and to make this project happen. Two, we wanted to address the key question of skywalks. This block has three skywalks, one across O Street, one across N Street, and one across 12th Street. One of those skywalks, the permit has expired. Another skywalk, the permit will be expiring next year. So we're working with the developer to address that. And what we have asked the developer to do is to do a structural analysis of the two skywalks that are across N and 12th to determine are the skywalks structurally sound. They've been there for 40 years. They've not been inspected. So we're going to have that inspection, and assuming they are structurally sound or can be improved, that will be, TIF funds can be used if they're not structurally sound to remove the skywalks. We're not anticipating that, but we want to make sure the skywalks are structurally sound moving into the future. The other thing that the project addresses is parking. We've identified parking that will be available in adjacent garages. Before COVID hit, all of our garages had waiting lists. At this point, we do have availability in all of the adjacent garages, but we don't anticipate that to last forever. And we would like to identify parking that is available to the developers for the development of this building and provide incentives for them to redevelop the building sooner rather than later. So we've identified a number of parking stalls that would be available in the first year, in the second year, and the third year. Most of the parking that would be available in the first year. There are representatives of Speedway and Nelnet here today that can speak in much more detail about the redevelopment of the building itself, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice.
Good afternoon or evening. You've had a long day, so I'll try to be very brief. Kent Seacrest, representing Atrium Building LLC, which Dallas represented are really two principal companies, Speedway Properties and Nelnet, and here today to help answer any questions that I don't know how to answer. I have Clay Smith, Craig Smith, and Adam Criswell from Speedway Properties, and Terry Hymas and Lauren Pugliese from Nelnet. So we've got a team here that's worked real hard on this project with the city team. We are talking about offices. That's the main purpose of this building, and we want to restore it so that it can continue to be a very successful office building in the future. Dallas mentioned $21.8 million is what we're spending to bring it back to its grandeur. The old building, the LEED equivalent for construction, rehab, and maintenance will be followed. And what I really just want to do is say downtown is doing well with housing, but office has had a headwind lately. The pandemic has been interestingly tough. We've lost about over 900 governmental jobs during the pandemic, have left downtown. We have about 750,000 square feet or more of office space that is empty. Banks have been downsizing and relocating. Cities lost a lot of parking revenue because of this shift. And it's really important, I think, to rehab this wonderful old building. And it's a big event to help bring and reestablish office as a strength of downtown. And that's why Nelnet Speedway believe in that and want to see it go forward. And with your support, we will get it done. I want to thank the staff, Dan Marvin, Dallas, Tim C., Wayne Mixdorf. They were very helpful at making this project go forward. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any question or any of the Speedway Nelnet representatives.
Are there any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, members of the council. My name is Todd Ogden, president of Downtown Lincoln Association, 206 South 13th Street. And I'm here to testify in favor of this project. Our board of directors did meet earlier this month to talk about this project and are aware of it, and unanimously approved the project and all of its components. We're very excited about having this kind of office development be proposed here, especially in a building that's had a rough history and needs some TLC moving forward. I think this is also a big, strong proponent of where we're seeing downtown move forward. As far as office space goes, COVID definitely has sped up a trend that we've seen downtown of moving from that 8 to 5 lifestyle center to a 24/7 center where we have more residents and office space that's adapting to more of a hybrid workforce. And the developer has a lot of experience working with those types of employers, working with different companies in the Salvation Army building and working with the Huddle building and different things like that, where we see our environment changing with the office, and we want downtown to be an environment where we can encourage people to have that kind of workforce and be able to have collisions around, and being a part where you can go to get some coffee or be in an office space that's modeled in a way to help support employees, whether they're coming or going, and going throughout downtown. And I think the developer, again, has a lot of experience with this type of thing, and be able to redevelop something in the heart of downtown that can encourage more employees at this time is exactly what we need. So we're excited about this, and hope you would be excited too. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item?
Richard Halverson, 6311 Inverness Road. Yeah, I would like to see the skywalk stay up. I know the traffic is probably not what it used to be, but it is part of Lincoln skyline. And it doesn't detract from Lincoln skyline, so I know you can't specifically tie it to the TIF because of the, or they sound. Although you would think they're younger than I am. I'm older than they are, so you would think they'd be structurally strong. But again, if it's possible, I would like to see those skywalks stay up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item?
Yes, I'm Pat Shears again. I'm glad to see this development because I want the Library Commission to stay where it's at. I want some businesses to come to keep Sky Mart open, where I go and get coffee and breakfast Monday through Friday. And I really want to be able to keep that open because it's vital.
Thank you so much for coming down and sharing. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Okay. Does anyone want to provide a rebuttal? All right, perfect. All right, seeing no one else to testify, we'll go ahead and move on.
Not fair, they get to go home. Can I go walk out with it?
We can now move on to our Section 5, ordinances, third reading, and related resolutions. Item 5A is Annexation 19006, application of Hoy Prairie South LLC to annex approximately 9.30 acres of property generally located at South 33rd Street and Rokeby Road, originally introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Raybold, seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5B is change of zone 19015, application of Hoy Prairie South LLC for a change of zone from AG Agriculture District to R3 Residential District on property generally located at South 33rd Street and Rokeby Road, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5C is approving a conditional annexation agreement between the city and Hoy Prairie South LLC for property generally located at South 33rd Street and Rokeby Road, introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Washington, seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5D is approving the amendment number 1 to the conduit system lease agreement between the City of Lincoln and Allo Communications, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5E is amending Lincoln Municipal Code, Chapter 4.16, Hospital Board to more properly title the chapter Community Health Endowment by amending Section 4.16.010 to remove outdated language by amending Section 4.16.050 to clarify that any changes to the rules and procedures of the board will be reported to the City Council by amending Section 4.16.060 to add the board shall adhere to investment practices and policies that achieve preservation of the inflation-adjusted purchasing power of the endowment fund, and repealing Sections 4.16.010, 4.16.050, and 4.16.060 of the Lincoln Municipal Code as hereto existing, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5SF is amending Lincoln Municipal Code Section 2.62.020 to revise the year of service definition by amending Section 2.62.055 to correct references to subsections, by amending Section 2.62.070 to add that a member forfeits his or her years of service on the date he or she ceases to be a member of the plan, by adding a new section number 2.62.165 entitled Purchase of Forfeited Service Credit under this plan, purchase a prior service credit for service for another governmental employer, by amending sections 2.62.140, 2.65.140, and 2.66.107 to add back the provisions that certain active members may elect to receive a 13th check or purchase a cost of living adjustment to apply to the member's future pension benefit payments, and repealing sections 2.62.055, 2.62.070, 2.62.140, 2.65.140, and 2.66.107 of the Lincoln Municipal Code as hereto existing, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, Council, no, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5G is Comprehensive Plan Conformance 21019, declaring approximately .54 acres of the city-owned property generally located at 5th and Cedar Streets, Ashland, Saunders County, Nebraska as surplus, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, may I please call the roll?
McGinnis,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5H is change of zone 21035, application of MI Industries Incorporated for a change of zone from H3 Highway Commercial District to I1 Industrial District on property generally located at 3301 West O Street, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion?
This is the pet food thing, right?
What's that?
This is the pet food plant, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Any further discussion?
Nature's variety.
Thank you.
Out of St. Louis.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, may I please call the roll?
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5I is approving a conditional zoning agreement between the city and MI Industries, Inc. for the property generally located at 3301 West O Street, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Beckius,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5J is change of zone 21036, application of Connecting Point Church of the Nazarene for a change of zone from R1 Residential District to O3 PUD Planned Unit Development with associated waivers on property generally located at South 70th and South Streets, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Councilman McGinnis, you're recognized.
Yeah, this, again, is something that's going along on 70th Street. And I know the owner, or the one that's going to be developing this, will keep a good eye out for the neighborhood, because he has a lot invested in that area. And so I'm okay moving forward with this. I had a couple calls from some concerned neighbors, but I know that the applicant or the buyer of this property is already taking care of them, so I appreciate all the work they've done.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Washington,
Yes.
Schob, McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5K is text amendment 21008, request of the planning director to amend Title 26 Land Subdivision and 27 Zoning Ordinance by amending Title 26 Land Subdivision to add a new Chapter 26.13 entitled Procedure for Processing Lot Consolidation, to establish when lot consolidation is permitted, describe the application process, describe staff review process, and establish requirements for lot consolidation plats by amending Chapter 27.60 Plan Unit Development District to add a new section number 27.60.070 entitled Clarification During Review by amending Chapter 27.63 Special Permits to add a new section number 27.63.035 entitled Clarification During Review by amending Chapter 27.64 Use Permits to add a new section number 27.64.020 entitled Clarification During Review by amending Chapter 27.65 Community Unit Plan to add a new section number 27.65.065 entitled Clarification During Review and repealing sections 26.11.060, 26.19.031, and 26.23.040 as hereto existing, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Any discussion? Councilman Beckius, you're recognized.
Yes, I would just like to take a moment to commend Director Carey and his staff in these with these changes and speeding up the process as they can in terms of approvals for new development here in town. This process, as everyone knows, takes time, but any changes that we can make to speed it up is beneficial to those in our community. So thank you to him and his staff for these changes.
Councilman Schob, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilman Beckius, ditto. And I hope this is the first of many things we do to streamline the process to, we've talked before, there are oftentimes when people come before us to get a waiver for something that we grant almost automatically, and some of those things need to be reevaluated, and we can do some more streamlining. I hope this is the first step, but I want to agree with his thank yous.
Any further discussion from the council?
Here, here.
All right, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 5L is approving the lease agreement between City and Waverly VFW Post 9875 for a lease of office space by Aging Partners for its senior center program at 13820 Guildford Street, Waverly, Nebraska, for a term of 1 year from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th of 2022, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Raybold. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please call the roll?
Ward?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Section 6 is resolutions first reading, items 6A through 6E. Section 7 is ordinances first reading and related resolutions, items 7A through 7E.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman McGinnis. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
We stand adjourned.
Good meeting by you, Jane.